Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to Ferret Face Fail Productions. So today we're going to be doing like a single track review video of the Throne Serpent and just kind of a update of the Throne Serpents in general, because there's a few changes I think that are on the horizon. I gotta kind of be careful of what I can or can't say, I think, at this point. But we can talk about a few things that are super cool and also enjoy the footage, because I feel like not a lot of people ride them off-road like this. And this is a totally stock Throne Serpent, so made it pretty fun and interesting in certain parts, because those stock tires are kind of something else. But first, we'll kind of talk about the Throne Serpent as a whole. So the Throne Serpent competitor to, I'd say, like the E-Ride Pro, Suron types, all those, I'm going to call it small to mid-size E-motos out there. And you know what? The Throne has been kind of a hidden gem in the whole works. The quality of the Throne, I think, is better than some of the other brands out there. Not that I'm saying the other brands are bad, but Throne seems to put a little bit more into little stuff like the brake lines and some of the build quality, the frame and stuff like that. Just seems to be a little bit higher quality, which I really like. I don't think we've had any come back into the shop so far, so that's kind of a cool thing so far. But it's a 10.5 kilowatt peak motor with a 74 volt, 40 amp hour. It's like 38.5 amp hour, but when I measure the charge voltage, really truthfully, it's about 40 amp hours. So we'll stick with that. And yeah, so pretty much in there with the rest of the competition. The 10.5 kilowatt, some will think that's less, but because it doesn't have a jack shaft, I find that the power and acceleration is pretty much identical to the 12 kilowatts on an E-Ride Pro. So, well, the 2.0 specifically. So it's a really quite good deal at the price right now. Yeah, if you haven't checked them out, they're growing. We like them. We'll talk about, so the Throne Cookie Edition is out right now, which I think is kind of the future of where the platform is going a little. So the Cookie Edition has, I think, 12.5 kilowatts of motor output, which is awesome. So they probably should have come that way. Same size battery, and of course it's got the specialized cookie, all that stuff on there, if you know what that is. So that one's super cool. We have two of those at the shop right now. I think one's spoken for, but yeah, check us out if you want one of those. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the Throne Serpent. So the Serpent is more than capable of tackling some off-road challenges, let's just say. So, of course, they come with a standard 19-inch wheel setup with those mountain bike tires that I have come to despise. They're fine on the road and for what most people kind of mess around with, but I'm a dirt biker, so not my most favorite tire. So there'll be a few instances where she's kind of slipping out quite a bit there, but that's fine. It's going to happen, and those are just what come on there. If I throw on a set of the ground wire tusks or something like that, it'll be way better. So, yeah, the bike itself, with its power output, is very, very nominal. There's more than enough power getting up any of the hills, steep hill climbs, popping the front wheel up over obstacles. In fact, I really like the power in the high mode because it's so easy to pick up the front wheel. Now, I'm not a wheelie guy, but I like picking the front wheel up over obstacles, and just blipping it and being able to hop it up over stuff with that 19-inch wheel is very nice. Love that. It wouldn't be my main daily bike that I would rock every day, just because I like the full-size dirt bikes, but it's very doable, and it was fun. It's very lightweight. Crashed a few times while we were out there on this thing, and just pick it up and keep going. In fact, probably should have run it in the race out there, because that probably would have just been fun to see what it did. I just wasn't sure if it was going to be able to make all the laps range-wise, which it probably would have, now that I know what I know. Anyways, the bike has had no problems. This was one of our rentals. We've since sold this particular bike on, but we rode the heck out of it and beat the heck out of it. It was a lot of fun. Well, one of the biggest comments I have, and this kind of applies to a lot of this size, is just the ground clearance needs to be a little bit more, but I do feel the Throne Serpent sits a little bit lower. I was hitting the skid plate an awful lot, which is why it's there. They have a metal skid plate, and I bashed the heck out of it, and yeah, it took it just fine. And then the foot pegs they seem to sit a little bit lower on the chassis as well, which is really good for people that are a little bit taller. I think you're going to be more comfortable in the cockpit or sitting in this thing than you would be on some of the other similar sized bikes. The only downside that you trade there is your feet are going to hang a little bit lower. So going through obstacles, I was hitting my feet quite a bit. So without boots, that probably would have been pretty brutal. But that's kind of common to a lot of these, and I can't really damn it too terribly much for that. Sur-on foot pegs fit on there, which I think we had on there, and then of course the rotor guards and stuff from the Sur-ons all fit on this as well, which I assume the wheels do too. I'd kind of love to test one of these out with 2118 wheels and some good tires and just really rock it. But I think they're going to have other things coming. There's some rumored new models, which I won't talk about because I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about, really, truthfully. But let's just say there's some new stuff coming that'll probably satisfy what I personally like a little bit more. And I'm excited to see that, especially if it comes with the same attention to detail as well as quality of these bikes. So another thing that I really like about the Throne Serpent, it's got a pretty good dash on it, and it seems to be full color, and it works very well. Like some of them have the really small displays and stuff. I like that this has a pretty solid display up front. It does seem, of course, vulnerable. If you're going to crash real hard, it may break. That being said, a replacement one isn't very expensive, so that also plays into this as well. We'll kind of get onto the company itself here in a little bit. The brakes, more than adequate. The rear brake's a little noisy, and I wasn't sure if it was just because of the brake pad material or if it was just dirty, but I was getting a lot of brake noise from the rear, but there was not as much brake fade, or a lot of these E-Motos have trash brakes that I can overwhelm and overheat riding them pretty easily. This one didn't really have that. Now, what Throne has kind of done here is they've put real, I'm going to call them Moto-style brake lines. And that's pretty awesome because you just don't really have, it's not a thin mountain bike brake line that's going to get cut super easy, which is super nice. They also use .4 fluid, which is a little bit more readily available than the mineral oil. They still have mountain bike calipers and the bleed process. I think we just need to get totally away from the mountain bike stuff and go to moto stuff on these. I would really love to see it. The brakes just need to be better all around. These, for what they are in the industry, quite good though. I have zero complaints about the brakes, which is pretty awesome. Let's see what else here. The motor and power delivery, every bike's a little bit different. That sometimes comes down to the type of motor tuning and gearing of the bike. I would imagine going to a bigger rear sprocket would net me some more range on this guy, but so far range has been really good on it as well. But we'll start with power delivery is very smooth but very torquey. She has a very torquey feel, and the motor sounds different as well, which is cool. I'm not sure if that's down to the gearbox they have on there, which is my next point. This is a direct drive gear reduction type style, so there's no jack shaft. That nets to, I think, a little bit more power straight to the ground versus being lost through a jack shaft. And yeah, that's great. The power delivery I'm quite content with. I want a little bit more, which the Throne cookie solves that problem. I don't think want more than the 12.5 that has. I think I'd be pretty content right there. Overall, though, very well executed, I think, overall for power delivery and the combination that. And the top speed of the bike is about 55 miles an hour, I think, somewhere around there. I never care about top speeds because I don't want to go that fast on these things. The headlight looks super cool. It's probably not the brightest headlight in the world, but it would do for some regular street use. Yeah, I got no complaints about that. It's pre-wired for signals and stuff, but of course they're not street legal. Let's see. What did I talk about? Range. We've done really good on range on this bike. The only real long range test we did, the rider, she's about 100 pounds, so that might not be the best range test to go off of, but we made it over 30 miles no problem and still had a lot of battery left on it, so that was exciting. But I think I've done close to 20 miles on it no problem without any issues. So yeah, like that, I think Its true range, especially if you're messing around on streets, probably between 30-ish miles to 40. If you're riding it really hard or you're a bigger person, then you might get a little bit less than that. You might get a little bit more, so it just depends. It's always kind of how these go. But so far, it seems to be right in line with like the E-Ride Pro and stuff like that. I've got no worries about that. The weight of the bike is, I think, right around 165 pounds, 162 pounds. I'd have to weigh it physically, but it feels pretty light and nimble. The weight sits a little bit lower on the frame. I think the battery sits a little bit further down than like the E-Ride Pro does. So while the E-Ride Pro is lighter, it doesn't feel quite as flickable as the Throne does, which is cool. Sometimes the where the weight sits matters more than the actual total weight itself, and that's fine. I don't really have a complaint about any of these. They're pretty lightweight bikes, so I don't get too wrapped up on that number. Let's see, what else do we have? I'll give the durability a pretty solid and decent rating because we beat it off-road, and it took a lot of abuse and didn't really have any problems. Didn't have any issues with like forks blowing or anything like that, so that's pretty cool. These are $4,000-ish bikes, so you have to temper expectation of quality and how good the components are versus how expensive the bike is. And for what it costs, the suspension's quite good. I've got no real complaints about it. So I think it's compliant. I think it's pretty well dampened, and the chassis seems to soak up. It's not jarring when you go over stuff. I set it up pretty well to my weight, easy enough, right around 180 pounds. So no real big issues with the entire setup there. And even off-road and on this rocky, bumpy stuff, hey, it's fine. There's no big deal. Like I said, the only real issue I had was the tires and the ground clearance a little bit. I would say, I would encourage these OEMs to dump those terrible tires. I'm sure they cost pennies on the dollar to put these on these bikes for manufacturing, but man, they're just not a tire that I enjoy. So, and I know it's probably not a sentiment shared by everybody. Oh yeah, and the last kind of few features is it already has a pretty good handlebar setup. So if you want to go to some better bars, you don't really need to go to a full conversion kit, because it doesn't do the standard stem kind of thing. It actually has a real handlebar mount to the triple clamps. Love that. So it's just little things like that make the bike kind of nice right out of the box. And as far as that, like if you're buying one of these to play around and do some wheelies on and have fun, dude, they're unique. And I like that you can get the colors in them. I love the colors. The red was my favorite, but now I think the cookie blue is really kind of grown on me. Like, it's a good looking bike, man. I'm really excited about the colors of these bikes. They seem to be somewhat hard to find certain colors when they get popular, but that's okay. We'll work a little bit better to get popular colors. But I think all the colors have been relatively popular. We've sold through at least one or two of each of the colors, and I've been fine with any of that. So overall, if you're looking at the Throne Serpent, take a serious gander. And right now, I'm going to tell you, probably most dealers are going to give you a pretty sweet deal on one versus like an E-Ride Pro. And you're not going to be disappointed in the bike. I can assure you that. It's going to be fun. It's going to be reliable. It's going to have some range on it. So, check it out. Throne as a whole has been really good with warranty servicing stuff. Right, so far, and this can always change, 5 stars out of 5. We call them up, we got a problem, we need a part, they send it right away. Somebody broke something or something failed from the factory, send it right away. We've had 0 issues with that, and they have been a pleasure to work with. So they've even helped out the small business problems, and I know they're trying to work with dealers on stuff. I really appreciate that. That's really, really awesome. So I look forward to Serpent growing. I look forward to seeing more models, and check out the Cookie Special Edition. We've got one here, and we're here as a dealer too. We only ride what we sell. I'm not afraid to dump brands because they're terrible. And that's just kind of an honest statement, because I don't want crappy stuff that makes our business look bad. But, well, let me know what you think about the Throne below, and I'll catch you on the next one. Ferret Face, out.